Start recording. Okay, hello everyone. This is Dr. Roxanne Williams, and this is a series of lectures that I'm going to be doing on scholarly writing. This first session is entitled Face Your Journey with Competent Writing Skills. And by the way, there is a reason why there's a pie in the face of that girl on the first screen. You'll catch on to that in a little bit. So I think one of the things that I've noticed with doctoral students when they begin their journey is sometimes they don't realize that there's different styles of writing, and the way that you write has to do with the audience that you are addressing. And so, of course, most of us do a lot of casual writing through texting and emailing and whatever. And so we kind of sometimes when we write something that's supposed to be expository or for scholarly writing, all of a sudden we have too casual of a tone in our writing. And sometimes we don't pay attention to conventions like we should. And having poor conventions in casual writing, we forgive that, and that's okay. But when you're writing more formal pieces, we need to think about our audience and think about the kinds of word choices that we make and make sure that we are writing in a different way. The reason I'm talking about expository writing as well as scholarly writing is because I believe that if you know all the pieces to expository writing, that prepares you for scholarly writing. And it's kind of like building a house. There's certain pieces that have to be in place before the other pieces can be built upon the others. And so I want to make sure that my students have a firm foundation before they go on to scholarly writing, which is going to be, of course, all of your goals. So a good foundation in expository writing would be that you know grammar conventions, you know good sentence structure. And if you have those skills in place, then the rest of your house is going to be built really well. And then above that good foundation, excuse me, is a good structure. The good structure would be the boards and the plaster and all that you put above your good foundation. And in the writing world, that would be having varied sentence structure, having specific word choice that is very effective and impactful in your writing, and that there's a logical flow to your ideas. So some students maybe have a good foundation, but maybe they don't have some of those other pieces that build upon that foundation. So I want to make sure that you have those skills, and that's why we're having these lectures. So I would like you right now to pause and think about how you would rate yourself in writing competence. Maybe you think, I have a good foundation in sound structure and expository writing. Or maybe you think, you know what? I had a fabulous master's program. They actually taught us a lot of scholarly writing skills. And so actually, not only am I good at expository writing, but I know how to write scholarly pieces too, where I cite evidence from peer-reviewed journals and all that. But even if you're one of those people that thinks that you have got pretty good skills in expository writing and scholarly writing, I think all of us sometimes overestimate our abilities. Sometimes we think we have good writing skills, but we don't really know what we don't know. And so that's why I want to help you a little bit realize some of the things that you might not know, and try to help you fine-tune some skills that you didn't realize you didn't have previously. Maybe nobody taught them to you previously. So you are beginning your doctoral journey, And so in these lectures, I might be reviewing some best practices for writing expository pieces and scholarly pieces. And some of you might right now maybe even are rolling your eyes. And I'm so glad I can't see some of your faces because you might be thinking, why is she talking about some of these real basics? I know all this. Well, that's great if you know a lot of these things already, but I really believe that all students could learn something by listening to some of these lectures so that their scholarly writing could be more fully developed. So here we go. What I'd like to do is really begin talking about expository writing skills first. And I like to make kind of a little acronym here because I like acronyms because they really stick in your brain and they help you remember key concepts. I really have a goal for all of my doctoral students. And my goal for you is that you face your journey with competent writing skills. And so that word FACE is our acronym. And F equates with the word focused. A equates with accurate, C with cohesive, and E is excellent. So let's think about the first letter, and that's F for focused. So what really is focused writing? Focused writing means that there is a purpose for each sentence within a paragraph. And I know you might, again, kind of laugh at that and think, well, I know that already. But you might be surprised at how many students really don't think about each sentence building upon the next one in a paragraph. So what we're going to do first with talking about being focused is we're going to think about the main idea sentence of a paragraph. And again, some of you might be laughing a little bit like, wasn't Mrs. Williams a third grade teacher before she became Dr. Williams, the professor? And the answer is yes. So some of this is going to seem pretty elementary, but yet I also know that many doctoral students need a review of some of these things. Some people actually in the scholarly world say that you don't even need a main idea sentence for each paragraph in an expository piece. Well, that's true if you are a very highly skilled writer who has had lots of experience. You could probably infer the main idea of your paragraph if all of your sentences were very explicit and gave really good evidence for something. And then the reader could kind of catch on to, oh, okay, I see all these sentences really are focusing on such and such. And then they would know what your main idea sentence was that you inferred, even though you didn't write it. Well, that might be okay for experienced writers to work like that. But in a dissertation, when you're dealing with very complex ideas and a lot of concepts, sometimes that the reader might not be that familiar with. And so the reader really needs some definitions of things, and the reader really needs help thinking through those concepts. If you have a main idea sentence for each paragraph, oh my goodness, it really helps the reader focus and understand what you're talking about. And you know what? As a writer, it really helps you focus as well. So Dr. Williams says, I really believe that you should have a main idea sentence for each paragraph in an expository piece or in a scholarly piece. So let's talk about the main idea sentence and what it should have. It should have a main word or phrase. It should have a relationship word, and then all the concepts in that main idea sentence should actually be mirrored in the rest of the paragraph. So let's talk about this a little bit more. I'm going to give an extremely silly example, because I think silly examples sometimes stick in our brains better. Before you begin writing a paragraph, I suggest you come up with an outline for that paragraph. Sometimes we call it a word map. So let's say with this silly example I'm going to give you, we're thinking that our main idea for the paragraph is about food. And then you start thinking, what do I want to write about food? Well, maybe I'm going to write about pizza and shrimp. And then you think about it a little bit more and you think, no, I think I'm going to write about pizza and lasagna. Okay, so I would like everybody who's listening to think about which of these word maps would be better to build a paragraph from. Would the first example, pizza and shrimp, would those ideas support the food main idea best? Or would pizza and lasagna support the main idea of food best? I hope that you're thinking about what you would think would be best. Yes, it's the second choice that would be better. Now, why is it that making an outline where food is your main idea and pizza and lasagna are the two things that you're going to be writing about, why is that the better choice for your outline? Well, I hope that you realize there's a stronger relationship between pizza and lasagna. And the stronger relationship is that they're both Italian foods. Okay, I realize this is silly, but let's now think about it in a more sophisticated level. Let's say that you were going to write a paragraph about emotional intelligence, and you're sitting there and you've got like 5 articles on your table, or if you're doing everything from your computer, maybe you're clicking back and forth between 5 articles that gave you lots of information about emotional intelligence, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to write my paragraph about emotional intelligence. How do I get started? Okay, make a word map and think seriously, what is it that I want to focus upon about emotional intelligence? And then maybe you'll scribble down several ideas and you'll go, okay, that seems okay. And then you scribble down some more ideas and you go, oh, guess what? I have my aha moment. These other 2 ideas that I got from these articles have a stronger relationship. And really, I can focus maybe on the emotional intelligence the history of emotional intelligence. And so my relationship word is going to be history, the history of emotional intelligence. And then your other 2 ideas are actually giving support because they're examples of how emotional intelligence has evolved through the years or whatever. And you think, oh, those other ideas I had from these other articles about emotional intelligence are really good ideas, but I think I'll develop them in a different paragraph later on. So do you see how, even though this is a silly example about food with pizza and lasagna, this is the way your brain should be thinking when you're writing an expository piece or a scholarly piece. What's your main idea of your paragraph? But then think, what do I want to focus my attention on in this paragraph about emotional intelligence? It's not just the main idea of the paragraph, it's the focus of what do you want to talk about that main idea. Okay, so again, your main idea sentence should have your main idea word. You should have a relationship word, and then every single word in that sentence should mirror what the rest of the paragraph is going to actually discuss. So let's take a look at a main idea sentence that I've written based upon my silly example. 2 Italian foods are popular in the United States. And you can see that foods is my main idea. Italian is my relationship word. This is going to help me focus the rest of my paragraph. I'm not going to write one sentence about ice cream, the next sentence about hot dogs, and the next sentence about licorice. And maybe, there's really not a strong connection. And, I have students do this with dissertations all the time. They might be writing about nutrition, and one sentence talks about carbohydrates, one sentence talks about a nutrition plan, and then the next sentence might talk about a bad meal that they ate 2 years ago. And then, through the screen of being in an online environment, I have a sense of their thinking, hey, Dr. Williams, all those sentences talked about nutrition. I was focused. And I'm thinking, yes, but you don't have a relationship word. You never really focused what you wanted to say about nutrition in that paragraph. And so connecting your ideas and having a plan of how you're going to connect those ideas and coming up with a main idea sentence that helps you focus on how there's going to be a connectedness and a glue between your sentences. This is really important. And so 2 Italian foods are popular in the United States. This isn't a bad main idea sentence if, by golly, that's what I'm going to be talking about in the rest of the sentences. You might notice that I had the phrase in the United States. That's a debatable phrase, isn't it? I put that in there, but as I begin developing my paragraph, if all of a sudden I see that all of my sentences are not giving examples of Italian food in the United States and maybe how they're processed in the United States, how they're sold in the United States, how they're eaten in the United States, the ingredients that we use in the United States, if it's not dealing with that, then I better get rid of that phrase in the United States. So every single word in that main idea sentence has to be mirrored in the rest of the paragraph. And I very often see doctoral students that they write a main idea sentence and there'll be something in that sentence and I never see it again in the rest of the paragraph. I may see it in a different paragraph that all of a sudden it pops up its head, but not in that paragraph. And I'm thinking, why did they say in the United States in their main idea sentence when they never talked about the United States in the rest of that paragraph? So those are the kinds of things I'm looking for when I'm looking at your writing. Those are the kinds of things that you should be thinking about as you write an expository piece or a scholarly piece. That main idea sentence basically guides the rest of the paragraph, and it helps the reader understand what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you just a little bit more now about what a complete sentence is, because I see a lot of writing errors even with doctoral students as to knowing what a complete sentence is. It has to have a subject and a verb, and it has to express a complete thought. Common mistakes that I see are listed on this screen, and I'm going to go and skip to the next screen because all the following screens basically will cover these common mistakes. One common mistake is subject-verb agreement, and real often I see a problem with was and were. I have 3 examples on the screen. I believe that students learn through non-examples as well as true examples. So if you could look at the 3 sentences on the screen and read them to yourselves. All right, I hope that you saw that there was only one correct sentence where the subject and verb were used correctly. It's the second choice, the second bulleted item on the screen. Scholars and practitioners were exhibiting unique habits of mastery. So, scholars and practitioners is, we could call it a compound subject. It's also a plural subject because we're talking about more than one person. So if you have a subject of a sentence that's singular, just one of something, then you would say was. The paper was exhibited. The paper was here. But if the subject of your sentence is plural, you have to use the verb were. I also want you to notice that last bulleted item. I see this once in a while. Scholars and practitioners exhibiting unique habits of mastery. A word ending in ing is not a verb. You need a helping verb there. Scholars and practitioners were exhibiting unique habits of mastery. If the helping verb were is in front of exhibiting, then the sentence would be okay. I see this kind of mistake often. Another kind of mistake I see is the wrong use of data. Some people pronounce it data, but data is plural. Data is plural. So the data was or the data were. What do you think is correct? It should be the data were. It's the second sentence on the screen that uses the subject and verb correctly because data is plural. It's like we're talking about a lot of stuff. The data were. Okay, now let me explain something to you. Prepositional phrases really throw students for a loop. Some of you may have thought the first bulleted sentence was correct because you saw that word paper. The data within the student's paper, and you saw that word paper and you thought, paper is singular. Paper was. The paper was done. The paper was here. That would be correct grammar, right? Paper was. But the problem is paper is not the subject of the sentence. The data is the subject of the sentence, okay? So it has to be the data were. Inserting a prepositional phrase between the subject and the verb does not change the fact that the data is the subject of the sentence. Okay, another problem students have with writing sentences is that they write run-on sentences sometimes. Here's an example. The choice between designs is difficult. There are several probable applications. Okay, actually those are two independent clauses, and so it's really like two sentences in one, and slapping them together doesn't work. Now, what you could do to correct it is you could put a period after the word difficult, you could put a semicolon after the word difficult, or you could put a comma after difficult and then add the word for, which is a conjunction. Okay, incomplete sentences. Sometimes students have what we call fragments. And a fragment is basically that they wrote a phrase, which is a part of speech, but it's not a complete sentence because it doesn't contain a subject and a verb. If it's a phrase by itself, it's staying all. If it's staying by itself and it's a phrase, it's a fragment. It is not a sentence. Okay, so here's an example. Within the main course content page, you will view each week's tasks to accomplish by the due dates. I see this often with students. I'll put a period and then they'll write something and then they think, well, because it connected to my previous idea that is a sentence. Well, to accomplish by the due dates is not a complete sentence. It's what we call a prepositional phrase. It's a fragment. So to correct that, you could say, within the main course content page, you will view each week's tasks to accomplish by the due dates. So I took out the period and made the to not capitalized, and now we do have a complete sentence. Okay, so if some of the things I've been talking about are review for you, great. I hope they are. I hope it was very simplistic this evening. But if some of the things I've talked about, you're going, this this really is a weak area for me. Well, if it's a weak area for you, that means that the foundation of your house is weak. Okay, and so I've got good news for you. University of Phoenix has many, many resources to help students, no matter what kind of writing skills they have. I have there the website that you can go to. It's on the eCampus website that takes you directly to grammar tutorials. Now, if for some reason, if you can paste that and it doesn't work for you, you can also find these grammar tutorials by going to the CDS Central website and then following all the steps I've given you on the top of the screen. Those tutorials are fabulous. I think all of us could learn by taking some of them. So I just want to offer that to you as a special help if you need some help with grammar and writing construction. Just as a quick review to wrap this up, and then we'll begin our Q&A session. I wanted to talk to you tonight about focused writing. I wanted to talk to you about the main idea sentence of a paragraph because that helps you with the rest of your paragraph. I gave a silly example of 2 Italian foods are popular in the United States. I want you to notice that every main idea sentence should have a main idea word or phrase. It's a phrase, like for example, emotional intelligence could be your main idea for the sentence, and that would be a phrase. You need to have a relationship word that shows your reader what about that main idea you're going to focus your attention on. And then you also need to make sure that all of the words in that sentence mirror what truly is going to be talked about in the rest of your paragraph. So the purpose of talking tonight was to help us all get better at learning what skills we have and don't have to prepare ourselves for what's up ahead in your doctoral journey. My goal for all of you is that you will face your journey with competent writing skills. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope all of you will listen in on the other sessions which will build upon this one.